Welcome everyone to our webcast. My name is Howard Groden. I am Vice President of Strategic Programs here at Terramark. We are a leading managed IT services provider. I am a member of the Technical Coordination Committee within the Open Data Center Alliance. At this point, I want to hand you off to Ravi from Intel, who will go over the topics for the webcast as well as introduce himself. Ravi?
Hi, Howard. Thank you very much. I'm Ravi Subramaniam. I'm a principal engineer here at Intel, and I'm playing a role of technical advisor and facilitator to the Technical Coordination Committee of the Open Data Center Alliance. So for today's broadcast, the topics that we intend to cover are, we will talk about the Open Data Center Alliance, its objectives, and the way it's organized. We'll then talk about the Technical Coordination Committee and the working groups and the kinds of work products and work in progress. And we'll talk a little bit about the collaterals and that are in development right now. As you know, the Alliance was announced late in October. So given that the short time since the announcement, a lot of the work that is being talked about here are in very early stages and may be subject to change. So let me move on to the next slide, which is giving you an idea of why the Open Data Center Alliance is important. As you know, we have an ecosystem of vendors. We have government and other agencies. We have standard development organizations and other both end user and industry forums. But in all of these cases, there is the voice of the end user is kind of pretty diffuse and duplicated because there is no specific organization where all of these particular end users can come together. And so even from a vendor's perspective, for example, they have to talk to multiple customers and multiple agencies to get the kinds of input that they want and be able to understand where end users are coming from. So if we were to switch to a situation where the Alliance is in existence, we see this as a venue for end users, and by end users we mean people who are focused on purchasing technology that will be used in next generation data centers and in the cloud, but not people who are vending or selling solutions in that particular space. So given this group of folks who are part of the Alliance, we envision a situation where the requirements and usages and other needs of the end user will be well defined, and we can use that to create a voice into standards organizations where those folks are focused on defining open and interoperability requirements. It can also help inform the vendor and other ecosystem players who develop solutions on the types and priorities of expectations by these end users. And in that case, coming from an organization like this, we expect that voice is consistent and unified. So it helps both the end user community come together. It also helps the vendors because now they have a more unified voice. And then the other objective is that for other agencies like the governments and things like that, where they would make policies or set up situations which might impede the success and growth of next generation technologies like the cloud, we could actually inform them and educate them as to what would be the right set of policies and things like that they might want to consider. In all of these cases, it's not prescriptive, it's suggestive, it's more educational from the point of view of helping these major groups of people in the ecosystem. The Alliance is focused on on the following principles. One is open, and when we say open here, it's to think about open as in multiple sources for components and ideas that go into make a solution. Now, those sources could be open source or it could be closed sourced, but the idea is that you have multiple sources to select your solution components from. We expect all of these to be interoperable, and like I said, multi-sourced. We expect them to be consistent, so therefore that they work together well as a solution, that they are coherent, and they bring a more unified, a true solution focus that the end users can apply, preferably in a more turnkey fashion. Going on to the next slide, the way the Open Data Center Alliance or the Alliance plans to, from now on I would use the term Alliance to refer to the Open Data Center Alliance, is to identify critical usage models. And as part of identifying usage models, other constraints and further requirements that will annotate these particular usage models. And the expectation is that these represent the IT pain points as IT tries to transfer, or this customer group tries to transform themselves into the adopting cloud technologies and cloud solutions. The other way is also deliver a roadmap of usage models, so that kind of sets up a priority that this community of end users believe should be the priority for the way the ecosystem should evolve solutions. And also other kind of collateral that helps the entire ecosystem, not only vendors, but the entire ecosystem to deliver compelling open solutions that this end user community can use. The idea here is to focus on next generation data center aspects and technologies, where cloud is one of those evolutions. Because the fact is, for a lot of end users, you need to take care of legacy while you're trying to transition into these new environments. And so therefore, the idea is to cover the spectrum of these potential solutions. Coming more to the structure of the alliance, there is a steering committee or a board, if you may, that oversees the entire organization. It's composed of about 15 companies. The key focus here for us in this presentation is the Technical Coordination Committee, which Howard and I are a member of. Howard is a member of, and I am there as a facilitator. The intent is that we would have 5 work group areas. One of them is infrastructure, which is the base components that go to make up a data center or a cloud. The next is a level of management that needs to be built on top of this infrastructure layer to kind of drive this in a coherent fashion to meet objectives that the owner or the user of this particular set of infrastructure elements needs to achieve. And you also need to worry about the security, because one of the biggest aspects as far as end users adopting the cloud is around security. And the fourth area is thinking through the services. In this case, when we say services, it is services that are of value to the end user. So it is how do elements of the data center and other aspects of the cloud, or higher levels in the stack, come together to create a meaningful service to the end user. And what is that service? What does that service mean? How does it look? That's what this is going to work on. And then you have the government and ecosystem area, which again, like I mentioned earlier, is that there are a lot of non-technical things that are going on in the ecosystem that either help or impede adoption of these next generation concepts and ideas. And how do we kind of influence that and make it happen? So one example could be licensing, where certain license policies are not really conducive to helping end users migrate into, for example, the cloud. All of these different areas need to be coordinated in a particular fashion, and that's where the Technical Coordination Committee comes in. It's composed of very senior technical people, and the idea is to help prioritize the work products for these different work groups, and at the same time, it's important to bring them together in some sort of coherent fashion. On the other end, we also want to make sure that there is good liaisons and relationships built with standards organizations and other external technical forums. For example, a lot of standards groups have a special part of their organization where they invite end users to come and talk about end user requirements so that the community that is part of that standards organization can understand certain needs and be able to design their standards to meet those kind of end user objectives. So being able to feed into all of that activity is very important here. And then the other role that the technical committee, coordination committee will play is also how do we aggregate all of the inputs from the work groups, how do we create certain recommendations that we can then present to the steering committee for approvals and for other, feedback. And all of the membership for these different groups come from what we're calling the contributor members and from the steering committee members. The steering committee are certain types of organizations. We have contributor members who are the active members in the organization, and then you have adopters who are more passive. All of these are different types of membership into the organization, and the work groups are mainly formed from the contributors and steering committee companies. So here's the work group areas. I did touch a little bit upon them. So the infrastructure is around the creation of the cloud or the data center. It's more the basic building blocks. Management is around how do we bring them together, how do we create and meet higher level objectives of the entire system. Security, how do we secure it? And this includes also governance and compliance in addition to all of the other standard security practices that we know. The services around defining the use of this cloud or the data center and the services that are represented to the end user, and how do we define things like SLA and service mappings and things like that. And then we have the government and ecosystem that's focused on some of the more non-technical things around green computing, policies, the types of models that exist, and things like that. The work groups have actually an international representation, as does the entire organization. This has companies, end user companies from across the globe. And also there is a strong work effort going on right now to kind of bridge to all of the existing organizations out there and try to see if we can reconcile so we don't have too much of duplication. And once we have these collaterals, how do we visualize that some of this information would be used? Now, this doesn't mean that this is prescriptive or normative in the sense. It's a sort of a suggested model. It doesn't mean that it is the model or the only model that will be applied. But the intent here, the thinking here is that once the Alliance has spent its time going through the different revisions of these roadmaps and usage documents and have come up with a substantial set of collaterals that are now the representative of the strong voice that the Alliance wants to represent to the external ecosystem, there will be a set of externally published collaterals. And the expectation is, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen in all cases, is that the ecosystem, which includes ISVs, vendors, other organizations like open source groups, things like that, would take those inputs and focus on creating some sort of reference architectures or platforms and coherent solution stacks. And then in the process of building those things and getting that work product done, they're going to have certain feedback that will be provided back into the Alliance, that will help us either improve the definition of these usages, improve what the content of the usages are, and also maybe inform new usages that one can think about. So this is one particular interaction model. Please do not take this to be the only one, and there are many other situations. At this time, I will hand this over to Howard to give you more details about the rest of the organization and the work efforts. Howard.
Thank you again, Ravi. Once again, I'm Howard Groden, a member of the Technical Coordination Committee. The first slide I'm going to take you through is the charter of the Technical Coordination Committee. Its primary focus is to coordinate the workgroup activities, though from a process and a technical perspective, we will be arbitrating on intra and inter-workgroup usage-related issues. So it's very important that you understand that the Technical Coordination Committee can arbitrate across those 5 working groups that Robbie described earlier. We are going to be formulating input and options for the steering committee to act upon. As an example of some of those inputs, overall usage strategy, recommendations for the roadmap. We will get involved in arbitration and resolution within the work groups and make recommendations to the steering committee there. And we will also be engaging and developing and exploiting opportunities with external forums and organizations, as Robbie mentioned earlier. In addition to that, the Technical Coordination Committee will own the overall usage agenda. So we're going to be driving the agenda to develop the roadmap of usages, which we'll describe later on. We're going to use the roadmap and usage priorities to manage the delivery of work products for each usage. So this is important that we are really facilitating the activities within the working groups and sort of jump-starting and engaging them to manage and develop work product. And we're going to also be engaging with partner organizations to both reconcile and rationalize the usage work products that we're developing. In addition to all that, we have an educational function, so including the vendor community on our technical activities through mechanisms like webcasts and presentations at key partner or other forums. Please note that the staffing of the Technical Coordination Committee and the work groups and the nomination of the chairs within those work groups are to be done by the steering committee. Moving on to the work groups. This slide describes the work group structure. You see a chair and a facilitator. We felt it was important as we were developing the process for work group to have a facilitator function to make sure that we're driving work product and priorities correctly. The chair will also take a very active role in that. The workgroup members are composed of the Alliance contributors. Robbie mentioned this earlier. These are the active members who will be actually developing that content for us. And as well, we will charter within the work groups, there will be, at times, the need for special interest groups, regional chapters, or industry segment subgroups to be chartered when we see that there's a need to do that as we're evaluating these usage models. This is describing the work groups and some of the primary functions and processes. The primary function of the work group is we are encouraging usage submission from any of our Alliance members via predefined templates. The work group then reviews and validates for inclusion, or they modify and enhance as necessary for inclusion. The work group is directly responsible for constructing the usages from practice and issues experienced by work group member organizations. This is an important thing to understand. Because we are developing these usage models, they're really coming from real-world requirements that are being faced by the member organizations to either comply to or to develop to. So this is really one of the primary functions of the working group, is really to take those core requirements for next generation data center or cloud and then construct these usages. The submission of these usages are restricted to only the Alliance members, both the contributors and the adopters. The usage development process, we recommend that an informal study group per usage be chartered on or an identified topic may be delegated to a regional cell where required. So again, trying to, if there is a regional focus, as an example, perhaps a data residency issue that has a regional focus, we will delegate that to a regional cell. How we deliberate and ratify within the work groups. The work group tries for a decision on a usage with full consensus. If that's not possible, prior to the 1.0 revision, a simple majority on a proposed motion that's 50% or above with the dissent being recorded. And then post 1.0 revisions, we're handling that through a decision on usage change update or proposed motion adopted only with a supermajority, 66% or above. So for the usage definitions, we're recommending a standard required format that has sufficient rigor. So we really want to be very clear on how that usage definition gets communicated through the format that we establish. There's some published templates that you can see that are examples of that we provided at the launch of the Open Data Center Alliance. The usage versions less than 1.0 for internal review and work product only, external publication at 1.0 version, and the publication will be periodically reviewed and revved post-launch. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the usage roadmap and how that fits into the overall charter of the Open Data Center Alliance. So here are the goals of the Alliance usage model roadmap. This is specific to the roadmap. We view the roadmap as a public one-voice statement by the Alliance of the most valuable usage models and Alliance expectations for interoperability for the vendors. So we see these to be, we're going to ensure they're important and relevant. They're bound to real end-user implementation timeframes, and that our principles are valued. So we see this roadmap being used as a guidance to vendors on desired open solutions, so that one voice that Ravi was referencing earlier. We see these usage roadmaps being a framework to make the Alliance principles testable. We believe that this is going to have value that could be demonstrable through testing. And it is going to be used as a guide to internal organization planning and purchasing. We believe that these usage model roadmaps are going to be to have some value within internal IT organizations or other entities looking to establish next generation data center in their planning and purchasing decision making. This chart describes the overall roadmap process. You could see that initially we're using topics and inputs from the work groups and the technical coordination committee. Until Rev 0.5 of the roadmap, we're going to review the roadmap and document feedback. And then Rev 0.7 of the roadmap, we release it to the Alliance non-contributors for some feedback. At the 0.9 Rev, we release it to the steering committee for their ratification, and then at 1.0, we are going to be releasing the roadmap. So this is a draft 0.5 directional roadmap. You can see that we've selected some initial usage models to be released as part of the 1.0 roadmap, and those are represented over on the far left. You can see that we've distributed some of the usage models between our 5 primary work group domains. So there's 2 within the infrastructure work group, 1 in our management work group, 1 in our security work group, and one in our services work group initially. The focus is on a long-term commitment with a multi-year roadmap. Right now in development, we've prioritized 19 usage models that we've called from dozens of potential targets. From a delivery standpoint, the work group development is currently underway, and the membership to approve that 1.0 roadmap in Q1 of 11. This is a representation of the usage roadmap by ecosystem readiness expectations. The way we're representing our roadmap on this chart is to sort of provide some guidance to the ecosystem around when we expect these usage models to have some support from the ecosystem. So you can see that the shaded areas represent the time frames that we expect readiness from the ecosystem as we release our roadmap and usage model details. There's some interesting ones in here that clearly, as we started talking internally within the Technical Coordination Committee, we realized that by putting out some of these requirements and usage models in a roadmap format with an expectation back from the ecosystem, it's going to be interesting to get the feedback from that ecosystem on just how prepared they are to support these models. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the usage models themselves. So this is the collateral to be developed for the usage model. So we envision a 2 to 5 page summary of the usage, which really provides a quick overview of the important aspects of the usage. I think there's going to be a fair amount of detail even in a 2 to 5 page summary there. We will then be providing a detailed description of the usages following standard practices for defining the usage models. So this is a detailed definition of the context, the actors, the scenarios, so use cases, alternate cases, expected outcomes, etc. I think this is going to that's going to provide a lot of context for how the usage models evolve and different use cases that the member organizations are currently experiencing to go into the development of these usages. We're going to define some metrics around these usages. So we're going to define the objectives and the outcomes in measurable terms. So we're looking to create metrics that can be measured. And then benchmarks, which we believe is a stretch goal, which is really creating a framework, test cases and methods to validate these solutions for their completeness and their conformance to usage expectations. That's going to be a challenge, but we wanted to provide it as a stretch goal at this time. So here's a usage model summary example for cloud onboarding. This has previously been released. You can see that we've developed a problem statement where we're talking about moving an application into a public cloud being a complicated process, often requiring redesign and manual planning and provisioning. Also difficult is once applications are instantiated in a cloud, a public cloud or a virtual private cloud, extracting or moving it to another public cloud is difficult and is a non-standard procedure. So the solution is going to provide for an intermediation layer, migration, brokering tools, etc., that allow for easier onboarding. We're looking to establish standards and federation models that allow for this onboarding to be seamless. Some of the scenarios within the usage for storage and archiving to a public cloud, backup, DR, high availability, access and retrieval scenarios. For onboarding of applications, we're looking for, as usage scenarios, instantiating a single simple application all the way through to instantiating a complex application, as well as extracting both the application and the data from that cloud. And some of the key requirements to support that are OpenISV APIs, policy and compliance engines that are designed for simplicity, and both scalable and available management. So, here's our call to action. For end users, cloud customers, and service providers, we encourage you to become a member at www.opendatacenteralliance.org. We'd like you to apply for contributor membership to participate in both the Technical Coordination Committee as well as the Workgroups. Usage model topics and inputs are certainly welcome. Please inform your peers about the Open Data Center Alliance. We want to really create a strong end-user position to the ecosystem. I see the leverage that this Open Data Center Alliance can create is powerful. And obviously, when we have a very active and strong peer group participation, I think the leverage will be even that much stronger. Attend the members-only webcasts, which we'll be providing on a periodic basis, and stay engaged with the Alliance. And for vendors, watch for engagement opportunities in 2011. And now I'd like to turn it over for Q&A.
Hello, thank you. We'll now begin the question and answer portion of this webcast. If you submit a question and we run out of time, we will get a response to you as quickly as possible. So I'd like to start with the first question. And gentlemen, feel free to answer these as you see fit. The first question is about membership. Can anyone join the Alliance?
Robbie, why don't you take that one?
Okay. The folks who can join this Alliance are pretty much those who are not encumbered by vendor interests, like I mentioned earlier in my section of the presentation. The intent here is to bring real end users so that you have the voice, constrained voice of the end user to the ecosystem. So therefore, the intent here is to encourage companies who are purely technology purchasers and end users to join the Alliance.
Okay, thank you. And our next question is regarding our roadmap. When will the roadmap be made available to the public?
So this is Howard. As I was going over the roadmap as part of my presentation, I'll take this one. So we see at point 9 roadmap being delivered for a 30-day member review in Q1 of 2011. Following that 30-day member review, the 1.0 roadmap will be made publicly available, so look out for that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Howard. Just a minute here. I'm going to pull up another question. Let's see. Okay, next question. Will you be creating standards for the industry to use?
Maybe I'll take that, Howard. Actually, the Alliance is not about creating standards as other industry standard organizations do. It's not part of the Alliance charter. There are already many of these organizations in place to do that work, and we don't intend to duplicate any of that activity. The intent here is to focus on end user needs and their data center requirements, And we may reference these industry standards where they make sense and where a large part of the community that's part of the alliance feels that those standards are very important. It's also important that we try to build these relationships with these other standards organizations more to inform them about the needs and requirements, and also to better understand the kinds of standards activity that is going on and the kind of standards that they're generating. So, in a nutshell, we will not be creating these standards, but we will be engaging with those people who do.
Okay, great. All right, Ravi, I think the next question would be for you. One of the attendees is asking, what is Intel Corporation's role in the Alliance?
Good question. The Intel's role is more as a facilitator and a technical advisor to the Alliance. Intel did spend quite some time and effort in getting this group together, but we have representatives who are going to mainly focus on facilitating the work efforts in the Alliance. It's important to note that Intel is not a member of the Alliance, and more importantly, Intel has no voting rights in any part of the Alliance, whether it be the steering group or the work groups or the technical coordination committee.
Thank you. Okay, I'm pulling up another question. How were the specific focus areas for the work groups chosen?
So I'll take that one. The Alliance Steering Committee prioritized 19 usage models after reviewing dozens of potential targets as part of the 1.0 targeted roadmap. So based on those selected 19 usage models, the Alliance identified 5 key work groups to drive each of those usage models to finalization. So while we do expect that we may form additional work groups in the future, the 5 we've selected, we believe to represent the current scope of the usage model development that currently needs to take place. So we will not, there is some discussion internally about expanding the number of work groups as we see the scope expand potentially. But for now, we're comfortable with those 5 work groups that have been established.
Okay, thank you, Howard. The next question. Will there be some kind of Open Data Center Alliance seal of approval or certification for vendor products that follow the roadmap guidelines?
Howard, do you want to take that, or do you want me to?
Ravi, why don't you take that one?
Okay. It's actually not part of the Alliance charter to endorse specific products, right? So we don't want to select one or the other products from vendors. The idea is to be, vendor agnostic in how the requirements are being created. But we do want to find ways in which we're going to share our roadmap with, people who create products for the data centers and people who run data centers. But at this time, we haven't really talked about an approval or certification process, and I don't think it's within the charter at this particular stage.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just a minute, and I'll pull up another question. Okay, the next question is about membership and joining work groups. If I become a member, can I join a work group?
Sure, so I'll take that one. So the technical work groups are really comprised of representatives from the steering committee companies as well as the contributor members who have been approved by our steering committee. Intel serves as the technical advisor for these technical work groups and actively participates in the work groups as part of the technical advisory role to the Open Data Center Alliance. If you're interested in contributing to a technical work group, you must first be an adopter member of the Open Data Center Alliance. You can then apply to the steering committee for engagement as a contributor member. You can apply to join as an adopter member on the Alliance website. As I mentioned earlier, that's at www.opendatacenteralliance.org. Once again, www.opendatacenteralliance.org.
Oh, great. Thank you. All right, here's a question that's kind of a follow-up membership question. Are government agencies allowed to join the Alliance?
I should take that one. So we welcome that government agencies who are ready to commit to the goals of the Alliance. As a matter of fact, two of the Alliance Steering Committee members, both Lockheed Martin and Terramark, have long-standing relationships with many government data center managers and brought this knowledge into the Alliance's initial formation discussions. The Government Ecosystem Work Group we mentioned earlier is intended to address global policy issues associated with data center development, as well as drive engagement with the global government organizations. So this is clearly an area of focus for us. So again, we do welcome government agency participation.
Oh, great. Thank you. All right, next question. This question's about the roadmap. Do you anticipate the roadmap will drive significant changes to current product offerings?
I can take that one as well. So the Alliance clearly was established to enable the delivery of data center solutions that really meet the challenges that data center managers and data centers are facing today and tomorrow. And we believe and anticipate that the usage model roadmap will help frame product delivery in the marketplace. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, we believe that the sort of this one voice concept through these actively engaged working groups developing work products and then releasing them out to the ecosystem is really going to drive change to product offerings. Just in my experiences internally within Terramark working in an Alliance's role, I think just our single voice alone is sometimes influential in that regard, and I can see that the force multiplier effect of the Open Data Center Alliance will, I believe, have a significant impact on the ecosystem.
Great. Thank you, Howard. Yes, in reviewing some of the other questions are quite detailed, and so we're going to take those questions offline. After the webcast is finished, we will be responding to individuals directly with answers. Thank you very much for all of your wonderful questions. And also be sure to visit our website. After the webcast, we will post it at www.opendatacenteralliance.org. So if you didn't have time to catch all of the webcasts today, you'll be able to watch it there. Also, we have a little bit of time remaining, so I just wanted to ask both of our speakers if they had any closing comments.
Sure. Let me close the webcast. Thanks everyone for your participation. We really appreciate it. We invite you to apply for membership again to the Open Data Center Alliance at www.opendatacenteralliance.org. We also invite you to join us for an upcoming usage model webcast series, which we're starting in January with a webcast on the topic of security. You can sign up for these webcasts on the Alliance website as well. The webcasts, please note the webcast will only be open to members as a way of discussing roadmap development in tandem with our previously described work group progress. Again, if we were unable to get to your questions today, we will follow up with answers to all remaining questions. And once again, I sincerely want to thank you for your time today. Ravi?
Yes, thank you very much, and I second what Howard just said. We again would like to invite all of the end-user organizations to participate in the Alliance. There's a significant value in like he mentioned, in amplifying the voice of the end-user, and we encourage you to apply for membership at the URL that Howard pointed out.